everybody up in the Learning and Language Literacy Club are not getting tipsy off alcohol. No, no, no. We are getting excited about language and culture and being bilingual, bilingual, and of course, representing that Spanish swag. Today, mis amigos, tenemos una invitada muy especial, a special guest, and I am so bien agradecida por ella. Ella se llama April Ruiz, and she will be joining us today to talk about her journey into becoming bilingual. So let's give a round of applause. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, gracias a Dios, estoy bien. Hoy es viernes y estoy lista para el fin de semana.
Eso sí. They say TGIF. Thank God it is Friday.
You got that right.
Es viernes, perfectísimo. So, te sientes bien y todo está bien, ¿verdad?
Todo está bien, gracias, sí.
Pura vida. So,
¿Cómo estás tú?
Oh, bien. Vea, siempre estoy cansada. I'm always tired. You can see these Kroger bags, these Aldi bags. I'm not too bougie for Aldi.
Girl, you look fine.
I do get my produce from Westbourne, so I will put my pinky up for that, darling. But when it comes to Westbourne is like our local, it ain't in the city of Detroit, so I got to say Metro Detroit. They made sure to keep the nice quality produce. Why do I got to go to the suburbs to get me some nice grapes and oranges?
Now they know that's not right.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. That's not my wheelhouse.
Believe that.
Nope.
Yeah, all those presidente. Pero I'm so thankful to have you here. Gracias por haberse tomado tiempo de pasar un ratito conmigo. Super happy and excited and thankful to have you here. So, April, we want to know un poquito sobre ti. Cuéntanos, tell us your story. Cómo llegas a ser bilingüe? How did you become bilingual?
W, woke, period, consciously be aware what you saying. A, accents matter, stress and expression, romance swagger. G, grammar check, conjugate the verbs, use the right verb tense. A, tengo un secreto, escúchame bien por un rato.
Sí, empecé a aprender español en séptimo grado.
Okay, in the 7th grade, a séptimo grado.
Sí, actualmente I was exposed to French in elementary school, and it was just a unit. It wasn't a full year's worth of instruction, but it was enough to get me really interested in foreign language. Yeah. So when I got to middle school and I was exposed to Spanish, I just became enamored. And it was easy for me to grasp vocabulary and conjugating verbs, and so I just really enjoyed it. So continué durante los grados de 8, 9 por el colegio, and yeah. So y también viajé a México.
¿Cuándo? ¿En el colegio o en la universidad?
En el colegio.
Wow.
Cuando en 10th grade, in 10th grade.
Okay, en el grado 10, ajá.
Sí, con un grupo de alumnos que estudiando español. Y entonces viajamos a Tulum, Contoy, Xel-Há, Isla Mujeres. Y después en la universidad yo vivía en Mayagüez, y that was really helpful, porque cuando estaba trabajando en el hospital, y también cuando existía la iglesia, todo el mundo hablaba en español.
¿Y a dónde estaba? Where were you doing?
Mayagüez.
Mayagüez, ¿dónde está?
En Puerto Rico.
Oh, está en Puerto Rico. Oh, okay.
Sí, en la costa oeste, extreme west. When we were landing, I was afraid we weren't going to clear the water.
What?
Extreme west.
Extreme west right there.
Yeah, west. So yeah, that's been part of my journey.
So something you said that resonates with me is that this seed, una semillita, was planted in you early on, right? In elementary school, in el cuarto grado, in 4th grade, just having like a unit on francés. So just an exposure, this seed being planted is probably what like helped to grow this desire to want to learn languages, and then specifically being exposed al español, being able to travel to Mexico in high school. I cannot tell people how important it is for study abroad international exchange programs, and then you worked in Puerto Rico. ¿Por cuánto tiempo en Puerto Rico estaba?
Durante el verano de 2006.
Wow. And that was entre colegio y la universidad or durante la universidad?
Entre la universidad y un programa graduado.
Oh, okay.
Sí.
Okay, bueno. So you went to graduate school right after ese verano in Puerto Rico.
Un programa entonces, pero I changed majors and changed programs. So I thought I was going into hospital administration.
Okay.
And I changed, but I had begun my master's.
I love it. And so cuando tú estabas en Puerto Rico, did you live con una familia or did you have your own like apartamento? How was that?
I had an apartment that it was a big house, and I rented a unit from a lovely couple that someone connected me with there.
Awesome. So how did you?
My own space, my own room, dining room, kitchen. It was very nice.
See, that part right there. How did you find this program? What was the name of the program? How did you?
So I had a coworker at a family foundation where I used to work at the time, and he was from Mayagüez. So he actually heard that I was trying to get some experience outside of, the Midwest, and he facilitated my housing. His parents picked me up from the airport. He was just a gem, and it was just a life-changing experience. So he's the one that made a lot of that happen. He knew the president of the hospital, so I was able to apply to the program, and the rest is history.
So would you say that your Spanish really took off after that experience in Puerto Rico? Was that the most intensive studying of the language or actual like real life application of the language?
For sure, it was an immersive experience that really helped my conversational Spanish and really helped me become more fluent. So I was a very skilled student for classroom purposes prior to going there, but to speak it 24/7 the whole time, you can't replace that unless you do it. So that was very helpful, absolutely.
That immersion experience is so, so very important. It's vital. And I highly encourage everyone, whether someone does it, they have even programs now for escuela intermedia, like middle school. I took a group of students from Detroit, Michigan that ranged from, they were like 8th through 10th grade. And it was such an amazing experience for me to take them to the town in Puerto Viejo de Talamanca and Limon, Costa Rica, where I lived, where my daughter was born, but even so much more experience now, teacher mode, looking at my students. Like that was amazing. Just even the cultural and the real world application of the Spanish, and then just the real life experience. You get to see other people in the world outside of Michigan, outside of the Midwest, outside of the United States. And some of them were the first people in sus familias para salir del país. So there's so much power in that because, they say, oh, mundo es muy pequeño mundo. Well, it really is a small world, yet we're so separated and diverse. And I think so oftentimes when we think about culture and language, we focus on the external tangible things. Oh, these people listen to this type of music. They dance this way. These are their dia festivos. Ellos comen esa comida. But we don't realize like the mindsets as well. And I know viviendo in Costa Rica, I rep my flag. Whoop, whoop. Even though soy de acá, I'm from Michigan, I feel so connected after living there por 3 años. And I think the connection to Costa Rica is less to do with things that can be physically seen. Of course, I love La Playa. Of course, I love that a large percentage of the land cannot be touched. They respect the environment. I love the feel of being physically like my mind, body, soul. But it's also this mindset, and they call it like pura vida, like being thankful for your life. I have amigas, good amigas. I could think of una amiga specifically, like she's like my daughter's Costa Rican godmom. And I promise you, at one point she was literally living in a shack. Like when we think of a shack, it was like a big house with her mama and papa, and she was grown. And all the children, as in they're now young adults or adults, 20s and 30-year-olds, they all got their individual shack. And then there's not their own baño privado ni cocina privada. You go to the big house where the mother and father resided. But now they've upgraded everything, where it went from being like a wooden shack to now it's like casa prefabricada. It's all those things. But she had 3 children, a fan, a TV. She had cama doble. Then she had camarote, bunk bed for her 2 older kids. And when I tell you, I remember having my daughter, she came and washed my clothes, even though I had a washing machine. She was like, no, Jessie, you just had, acabo de tener el parto, you need to relajarse, sanar. And I remember her putting all my clothes in a big black garbage bag on her bicicleta, on her bike, just as content and happy. And this is someone making 2-3 mil la hora, which would be the equivalent of like $1.50 to $3 an hour, but still so thankful.
Yeah.
Like, I remember us praying together. I remember us being on the beach together, and the things that so many Americanos, estadounidenses trip about. It's a whole new world. It's like a different experience. Did you have any of that type of experience while living abroad in Puerto Rico?
I did. For one, yo vivía en una comunidad adventista, and I'm not Adventist. So I'm used to I was at that time used to going to Black church on Sunday. And then I was going to church on Saturdays, and it was just a different way of worship and doing the service, which I really appreciated. It was just a cultural difference from what I was used to. And then also, I think in the contiguous states, we are so wrapped up in the rat race of succeeding and success and punching clock. And so I took that with me, of course, because that's what I was used to. And my friends that I made completely embraced the weekends to commune with nature. So todos los sábados, íbamos a las playas y lighthouses, and just communing with nature. And I felt so good come Monday morning, going back to work. Like Saturday's no work period because it's sábado, but Sunday it's just like chill, just appreciating. We would do things if they pertain to nature. So we would take hikes, we would go swimming, and so I brought that back with me, and of course it was short-lived because I'm back in America. Traditionalism and
work. To me, I be work.
And just being all scatterbrained. But I really did appreciate that, and I really valued that cultural practice in the community where I lived anyway.
That right there is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
You're listening to my mommy, Jessie Feliz, on Spanish Swag. Bye-bye.
Becoming bilingüe. And so, again, April, gracias por su tiempo. And so the next question I have for you is like, what was this breaking point, this turning point where you went from sounding like a gringo to speaking Spanish with swag and having this concept of speaking like a native? What was that turning point for you versus how badly so many Americanos were, the stereotype is that we're like, me llamo es Billy, dos cervezas. Like, and people are so proud of their ignorance. That's why I'm like, your ignorance is not conspicuous. So what was this turning point, or when did you become aware, that there's a difference between sounding like a gringo versus speaking with what I call swag?
I don't know if there was a certain turning point. I think for me, whatever I'm learning, I always try to, I don't know if I want to say assimilate, but I want to take on whatever the learning is. So when I started hearing words in Spanish, I was cognizant to know that there's certain pronunciation I should take on when I'm speaking language. If I'm learning math, I realize there's certain methods I should follow to solve problems. So I think, of course, I noticed when some people were not enunciating and pronouncing words of, what should sound authentic or native. I would work harder to sound more native.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And I would also chameleonize. So I noticed when I was in Puerto Rico, the Spanish was not the Mexican textbook Spanish that I learned in school.
Absolutely.
And even, some of the, Castilian ways that we would be trained on how to say certain things, or, vosotros, that's not used everywhere. So, I really realized, like, wow, this is more than bilingualism. There's different ways that people communicate, even between the two languages. There's, a lot of it may be based on context, it may be based on geography, maybe based on cultural practices and norms within communities. There's so many. So I don't know if anyone ever masters a language, because it's not a universal, there's no one way to speak a language. But I think proficiency is always key, so that you can, adapt, or as I say, chameleonize based on, where you're speaking the language. Pero para ser franca, y me voy a poner mi sombrero educativo ahora.
Okay, está bien.
Creo que aprender un idioma se depende en el profesor que lo enseñe.
So, por supuesto que sí.
In my case, like I said, English was my first language. I did not have family members who spoke Spanish, but when I got to 10th grade, and I had the same Spanish teacher for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And shout out to Senor Polanowski, Joseph Polanowski. I don't know if he's still with us. I've been trying to actually find him for years. Phenomenal teacher. And he would not permit us to speak English during class. And that is as close to immersion as you're going to get in an American high school that's running through a language program, short of taking trips or really becoming immersed in, different language opportunities. So he really, really got me on fire, more so with my practice. And so after Spanish 2, you just could not speak English in class. And what I find in my experience, working with many districts in this state and in other states, supporting students and their learning, these language programs do not focus on fluency. There's a heavy focus on vocabulary and testing for sure. That's just education, period. Testing, there's heavy focus on testing. But just this rote memorization of terminology and even memorizing verbs in their infinitives, but not conjugating, and then being able to link subjects and nouns.
And to then actually communicate in the language.
Right. That's what I find.
What I'm talking about, sprinkling the swag to sound como una persona nativa.
Well, that's another level. Like we need to understand how to translate and interpret first. And then to sound, para hablar con swag, that's another thing. We'll get to that hopefully. But just to, I work with certain students, and some of my students are in Spanish 4, 5, 6, because their program started in middle school compared to other high schools. In my head, I'm thinking, why can't we have a conversation? It's very frustrating.
Why can't I ask you cómo estás? And then you say to me, estoy bien, y tú, es bien, usted, and why am I getting me llamo es? After 2, 3, 4, or 5 years of studying Spanish, and people will say, well, I only had Spanish for 1 año. Esto puro, okay? No. In un año, you should be able to do something. In un año, you can learn cómo montar en bicicleta. It's like we need to elevate. That's why it's like I'm like bien frustrada with this status quo of second language instruction. My passion is even more driven by what impacts our people. But I'm saying por lo general, if you're in the suburbs, in the city, if you're in the country, no importa donde estés. Okay, the thing is like we have to raise the bar. And I'm saying as a Spanish teacher for after 14 years, it's about mastering. ING. Shout out to one of my amazing colleagues, Kimberly Salter, because she always talks about add that gerund, attempting, doing, mastering. Because anyone's like, oh, I've mastered it too. Oh, that means that you cannot be receptive. You don't have a growth mindset. But we can no longer, as teachers, si tú eres docente y no se escucha en ese momentito, okay? You, as a teacher, from the time you teach las vocales, A, E, I, O, U, it is your responsibility to check your students in love and create this culture of feedback where no one's taking things and being all sensitive, that we're all here to learn, laugh, and grow together. But you cannot pass your student. It should not be an A. If you ask your student, because I know the traditional thing, okay, I'm going to ask you these questions. ¿Qué te gusta hacer? ¿Qué haces por los fines de semana? And some of the teachers, let's be real, some of the teachers are sounding like that themselves. So we're asking the kids to speak with some swag. Well, some of our maestros need to like drink some swag juice. I got some swag juice on sale. Visit jessiefeliz.com and you can get some. Okay. But no, seriously, like, and then, you know, you call the kid up, each kid. I know we got 30 kids in the class. I know we have administrative tasks. I know this, that, and the third. But with the little bit of control that we do have over our instruction, our planning, our assessment, the feedback we give students. If I ask a scholar, ¿qué te gusta hacer? And that scholar says to me, me gusta hacer muchas actividades los sábados con amigos. And I'm like, he answered everything, and maybe Johnny even wrote that out. And grammatically, his written work may actually be accurate. And I'm not saying straight give him a denied grade, pero you're telling me you're not going to check that? And then he moves on to Español 2 and then Español 3?
Yeah, it's necessary to visit that in real time.
In real time. Because guess what? In real time, me imagino cuando tú estabas en Puerto Rico, in real time, if you say something with someone from a different country and you're in their country and you say it the wrong way, ding, 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 depending on the relationship, but they're either going to be confused or they're going to like check you in love.
Sí.
And offer you that feedback so that you can learn. But if you don't, I mean, that's I'm sorry, that's these teachers, y'all. We in this boat together. We are in this boat together. And I even have to check my own self. Like, hold up, Jessica, you didn't say that right. Or Jessica, go back up, make sure you check that student. And you have all these students, whether you're in persona or virtualmente está enseñando. Like, you have to hold your students accountable, because we cannot, as language teachers, sit up here and be the main ones to say, they just say we're elective teachers. Well, I mean, what are you doing? You have these kids for 1 year, or al mínimo. ¿Qué haces tú con ellos?
Yeah, and the electives are as important as the core courses. I mean, there's learning happening in all these types of classes, so that doesn't really matter. And I
just know for us, we got this stigma like, oh, we're the elective teachers. You don't get as many resources. We just care about the main testing subjects. I know for me in my classroom experience, that was often a stigma. You're just a specials.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I don't think we should see it that way. I mean, we're all in the educative process together. So whatever, you know, if it's an elective versus a core, or, you know, that I don't think that's the right way to look at that. And I will say I am hypersensitive to the demands that teachers face, you know, having lots of unrealistic expectations upon them. And so I've just noticed in my experience, though, that there are some strong language programs out there, but many of them are, I think, just kind of letting students get by with the minimum. And I personally don't do that with my students, you know, but I do that with all subjects, not just language. But, you know, a negative will make the math problem wrong. Okay, the answer is 5. If you say -5, it's wrong. There's no almost counts in math. And I want to treat that the same way with language. You either said it correctly or you didn't.
That's powerful.
I want to be reprimanded or, you know, corrected if I mess up, because I mess up, you know. So I think that's just the practice I carry in my education of others. You know, we have to be consistent.
Now, what you just said, April, eso fue muy profundo. And I want to like extend that. If the answer is 5, and if you say -5 or 5 negativo, then es incorrecto. However, you also being culturally relevant and being mindful that there are dialectos. In España, en vez de decir 5, ellos dicen 5,
Sí.
right? And so you have to also honor and respect that area. I think about, okay, yo soy de Michigan. And so for us, what do we call Pepsi, orange? Pop. Okay, I taught in, and I'm going to say Baltimore, because I say the way that people say it. Yes, it's spelled with a T. No one from Baltimore se pronuncia la ciudad así. Everyone says Baltimore, like with a D. So you could clearly recognize, number one, when I migrated, I was fresh teaching, you know, got out of school, 07, started mid-year, January 08, like, yeah, I'm about to educate these kids. And I'm up in Baltimore, and I remember the first week the kids were doing such a phenomenal job, one of my classes, and I was so excited. And I got my first little teacher check. I said, we're going to have a pizza party. And so I was like, yeah, we're like, fiesta de pizza. And then I said to them, okay, what type of pop do y'all want? And they were like,
got the crazy look, didn't you?
Yes. And I was like, they were like, popcorn? I said, I didn't say no popcorn. I'm already giving you pizza. Pop. What type of pop do you want? And then I was like, orange pop, red pop, grape pop. And they were like, somebody was like, you mean soda? And I was like, yeah. But i.e., they don't say pop.
Right.
That's not their native regional colloquial way to say pop. So then how could I, una extranjera, a foreigner in that region, even though we're all estadounidenses, how could I then come there? Of course, I'm going to be my natural self. I'm going to speak. I'm going to say pop. But like how you said, almost like assimilating linguistically while living there, I learned that, no, people don't say pop. So when I would go through the drive-through or somewhere, you know, when that term was used, I started switching to say soda.
Yep.
Right. And then I said Baltimore because no one says box, even though it's a T. You know, you assimilate, you acostumbrarse. I like the word you accustom your ears to lengua, and so you can camouflage. And so, again, I also want to put the plug because we do have this issue, and sadly, tristemente, in many language programs where there's this Spaniard standard or a standard Mexicano, and it's not culturally inclusive. Because how can I, as a teacher, say this is the only way, and I have a room lleno de Dominicanos or de Colombianos or de gente de Honduras? There are regional different ways to speak the language, and I do believe we need to do more of like honoring and being more inclusive, especially for heritage speakers, because how am I as a Spanish teacher, especially someone who's quien no es Latina, I'm up here telling you, a native speaker or a heritage speaker, no, the way your people say is wrong. That's a big issue too. Like, no, we need to honor that, but say, okay, this is an academic standard way that we're learning, but also I know there are multiple ways to say the same thing. And so I always make that pop soda reference, because then down south you could say Coke and it represents Sprite.
Right.
Yeah, I'll get you a Coke. Give me a Coke. And then they come back with an orange pop. I didn't say orange, you know. So it's like that.
Yeah, language is very complex. So like we talked about, there's not a uniform way to communicate, but it is important to make corrections and you know, try to identify with accepted ways of saying things, at least not just kind of close to it, because that's just going to widen the knowledge gap of communication, of written practice, of understanding. So yeah, like in matemáticas, hay una diferencia entre 5 y 5 negativo, pero no hay diferencia entre 5 y 5.
Sí.
So, you know, there's still ways we can work to make sure we're on certain par levels with being fluent.
As that swag.
Yeah.
So also April, I wanted to know from you, as a non-Hispanic Black American and then Black American woman, because we got to add that, we can't ignore that.
Yeah,
that's part of the package too of your earth suits, as I like to say. We all have been given these earth suits. Have people question your origin when they find out or listen or hear you speak Spanish? How has that experience been for you?
Claro que sí. Muchas veces. Cuando estoy aquí en el medio oeste, realmente, you know. Pero si me voy a Puerto Rico, me voy a Honduras, y la gente allí me escucha hablando en español, they assume I'm Hispanic. But here it's like a lot of times, you know, I get the double take, or, you know, where are you from? Or, you know, those kind of questions. So yeah, that's very common. But I think that's very common in any situation where you assume a first language of a person and you hear them speaking something different. And it just kind of makes you think, oh, maybe there's another dimension there. Maybe they're not from where I thought they were from. And I think that's just also, we need to kind of broaden our thinking of what that can look like. Just because you're from a certain place doesn't mean that is your limit in communication. Doesn't mean you can't take on other learning of other languages, but absolutely, that's been very common.
Yes, and that's part of this movement of Spanish swag for everybody. I want everyone to speak in a more native-like way, period. I want to help raise the bar of excellence. Like we talk about, you want to be excellent, whether in matemática, ciencia, whatever you're doing, like what you do, give it your all, give it your best. Obviously, we got to see cualquier cosa. Exactly. And the emphasis even more so for our people, because that's what I'm connected to. I don't want to like focus and not have my heart for our people. And with that being said, I think it's very important to know that, and I want to hear from you, how do you think, and how has specifically bilingualism benefited you as an individual, as well as like you, what you represent? Your business will be transitioning to that soon, because I can't wait to share that con todos. But like, how has being bilingual helped you, like holistically, all of what April represents?
I think learning a second language, and I'm all about learning languages, period. I think it is grounding for us to be exposed to different ways of communication, learning the cultural practices tied to certain languages, depending on, region, of course. But I have really, part of me experienced more self-esteem. I think as a student, I felt like I was achieving at a higher level. And we actually have research that shows us that people who speak multiple languages do tend to achieve at higher levels. They tend to perform at higher levels academically. And I read somewhere that people who speak more than one language live longer. I have to fact check that, but it sounds great to me. So
I mean, there's definitely a significant decrease in Alzheimer's and dementia,
right, because
because like you're lifting weights in your brain as much as we focus on physical. And I have to commit this memory, but there is a central part in your brain, and it looks like the shape of una corazoncito. Okay. And it's right in the center of your head, your brain. And this is like the language part, the multiple language part of your brain. And it is only like electrically lit and hype when you are speaking more than one language, because you're working. It's almost like if you've been chilling, like most of us pandemic on the couch, and then you get up like, it's because you haven't been working that muscle, right? Or you haven't been stretching.
Right. To marathon.
Right. Yeah, Netflixing and too much chilling, right? Yeah. And so you've been working that muscle. But then if you're actively working that muscle, you have more flexibility. You don't have like as many hiccups. You can be more flexible, and you're just more activo con tu cuerpo. It's the same thing that happens in el cerebro. The same thing. You want to keep your mind active. And there are many studies that show, especially when you go across the planet where you have so many polylingual people speaking tres or más idiomas, and the rates of Alzheimer's in their communities is so significantly less than we have in this monolingual society donde vivimos nosotros.
Right. I was going to say, if we're just clear, many people from other countries come with multiple languages.
Yes.
Like we are behind. We are behind. So I think that's even more reason to emphasize the importance of just to be more globally minded. Yes, English is spoken in many countries around the world. Spanish is spoken in many countries around the world. French is spoken in a great deal of countries. There's just other ways to, if you want to be a global citizen, which I do appreciate having the ability to travel and take in experiences because I know the language in different places. I just think that's something we should promote amongst our people and just support that, rally that.
Yes.
Make it a norm. Make it I think that make it more of a standard of practice.
Yeah, I love that. Make it a norm. Like let being bilingual, that's a norm. Minimum.
Normalize polyglots.
Yes. Yes. Normalize it. Yes. And you know what else? I also love the concept of there's certain things that are only conveyed how they're conveyed in that language.
Right. Yeah.
You can use a translator, but certain things have a certain sentiment.
Yes.
You know, and you only understand it if you learn that language. And that's why sometimes when you're translating, it's the expression. One of my favorite understandings that demonstrates that there's like a Spanish speaking way about something and versus the English speaking way. And I imagine there may be an Arabic speaking way of this same thing. Everything's different. One of my favorite language understandings, I would say cross language understandings, is the concept of age. We say, I'm 37 years old. Now, if you were to look up each of those words, I am 37 years old. If you individually looked up those words, you would not have the correct translation. Yo soy 37 años viejo. Like that, that would be a mistranslation. Pero the correct translation would be tengo 37 años. Now, there's some Spanglish that happens in the U.S. where I do hear people say soy 36. That's from living here and assimilating. That's just a natural flow. Pero gramaticamente, we know it's tengo, describing yourself, or tiene, para otra persona, the year, and the años. And I didn't really understand this until I heard one of my good Rasta friends, who's Caribeño in Costa Rica, when he was asked people's age or state his age in English, he would say it the Spanish-speaking way. He would say, someone would say, oh, how old are you? And he would say, oh, I have 41 years. And then I used to be like, oh, that's so cute. Because then he's trying to say it. Yes. You see, he's saying it in English, but the Spanish-speaking way. Does that make But the sentiment is, what does that reveal? As much as we're like, oh, no, 40 is a new 30, 30 is a new 20, everyone trying to be younger. I embrace my grays, y'all. It's all up here. And I say, you know what? Because in English, you're like, yeah, I got 37 years. What? Left in the joint? What does that mean? What does que significa? You got 35 years, what? I hope nothing bad, or I hope nothing like that's coming up. But it's like, I have 35 years of existence on this planet, of growth, of fracasos, failures, and of good things too. Of experiences, de lecciones. But that reflects, that's why the language is un reflejo de la cultura. Because that's a mindset. Oh, I have 35 years. I have 37 years. I got 78 years versus I'm 78 years old. And so I love, that's another thing that happens when studying multiple languages. You make those comparisons. Yeah. And in those comparisons, you discover certain things that if you only know your native language, you would miss out. And it enriches and it makes you actually appreciate your own language to me even more, because you can make this connection.
That is a good point. So appreciating, and then also I think being more grounded in one's own language. So learning French and Spanish, at one point I was studying Portuguese, really cemented my command of the English language, because you have to understand patterns with verb conjugates and sentence structure. And so I have many, Spanish students who are taking Spanish in school, but I've actually worked with students who have done French, German, Italian, and I don't speak those languages, but I recognize patterns with verb conjugations. I amazed myself that I was able to help with some homework assignments because it was on, grammar and, but because I'm so strong in English, my foundation in English was very mastered. It allows me to learn other languages, to me, easier. And I feel for all ESL people. I know our language is so crazy, but I'm grateful that English was my first language, because in my opinion, it gave me a platform on which to learn other languages in a smoother way, in my opinion.
I agree, because English is como una mezcla de todo. And my daughter, sometimes she's like, Mommy, why is care C-A-R-E, but hair is H-A-I-R?
Yeah, explain.
And bear is B-E-A-R. And I'm like, welcome to B-A-R-E. Right.
Yeah.
Welcome. So, April, with all of your experiences como una persona bilingüe, and we got to represent that Grand Raggedy G-Rap.
Grand Raggedy, I haven't heard that in 80 years.
Oh my gosh, is that Dick? Is that showing my age? I told you, I'm proud. It's showing my age. I will still say, oh my gosh, I'm so outdated. It's from 03, back when I was at Western Michigan. Like, people say, oh, where you from? G-Rap, Grand Raggedy. And I'm like, yeah, oh my gosh. So no one nowadays is saying that?
I'm not saying they don't.
I just don't hear it.
I personally don't hear. I mean, I think we moved beyond that. I feel like Grand Raggedy wasn't the best kind of version.
But do people still say Skeet Down from Muskegon?
I hear that on occasion. I still hear Flint Town. I hear Sag Nasty. I never would have claimed that, but you know, if that's what they want to do in Saginaw.
So is there a nickname from Grand Rapids? And for those that don't know, we're talking about G-Rap, Grand Raggedy. We're talking about Grand Rapids, Michigan, the second largest city. La ciudad más grande, segunda grande en el estado de Michigan. So, is there a nickname for Grand Rapids that a new?
I don't know. There may be, but I'm not hip to it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm outdated. I'm still gonna say Grand Raggedy because I dated a brother one time, and that brother was fine, but he was definitely raggedy. Okay.
Like, he represents the whole city, huh?
No, you know I do that. But I ain't gonna lie. Ever since then, I'm like, I ain't never gonna mess with nobody from G-Rap. I know how they get down. It's like, that ain't right because I'm the main one. Please do not generalize.
Right.
But that situation, fine as wine and raggedy too. But tell us about, so what are you doing ahora in Grand Rapids, your business? I want to hear from you, and then I want to show everyone tu sitio web, and also include, do you offer services still virtually now that we're back more so in person? So cuéntanos, porfa.
Yeah, so I am an entrepreneur. I have started a company called S.W.A.G Masterminds, and we primarily serve clients with one-on-one academic support services. So tutoring, essentially. And we work with students of all ages, all backgrounds, in virtually all subjects. So our youngest student so far has been 3 years old. Our oldest so far has been 63, which is very exciting. So we work with a lot of non-traditional students, you know, by age, say non-traditional, if you're not just going straight from high school to college, adults who want to continue their education. We've worked with professionals who have just wanted to work on some of their skills. I actually used to tutor a high school principal who wanted to learn Spanish because a lot of his student population was Spanish speaking. And so he just wanted to, you know, be able to relate in that way. So we do a lot of standardized test prep. We do a lot of homework support, and we walk alongside teachers. We like to partner with them to be another person on the team of teaching support for the students that we work with, and help parents feel a little more sane in trying to get their students to follow up on what they're supposed to do, and help students feel more confident in their learning experiences. So
I love it. And I want to show everyone your website again, mosaicmasterminds.com. I'm loading it up now. I have to refresh the page. Okay. But what made you decide to create this compañía? Like, where did this come from, the inspiration, and when did you start it? How long have you been in business?
We started in 2003. And I was really tutoring one of my peers at the time, and he gave me the idea to turn it into a business. And at the time, I didn't even know what that meant. You know, I knew some people own businesses. I never thought of myself being able to do that. But word of mouth spread about my helping students, and we grew, and eventually I could no longer meet the request. So I decided to develop a team. And as of today, there are 22 of us. Yeah! Most of us, yes, it's very exciting. We've been very blessed. Yeah. So most of us live in West Michigan, but we do also have tutors in Maryland, Ohio, Georgia, and Puerto Rico. So we are in Puerto Rico, yes.
That is amazing.
So we have always, prior to the pandemic, we always had in-person sessions, just being old school and really wanting that back to basics model of just, you know, traditional in-person instruction worked really well for us. But then when the coronavirus hit, we had to adjust quickly, and school wasn't a thing for like 3 weeks because the world didn't know what was going on or how to handle it. So I spoke with my team about starting to offer sessions virtually and did some training for those who needed to make that jump with platforms online. And so today, now that we're kind of calmed down a little bit, based on comfort level, we have in-person sessions, everyone's still wearing masks, and then we have virtual sessions. We have some tutors who do both, but naturally, you know, if we have students in Texas, we don't have any tutors currently in Texas, so we have virtual sessions based on geography as well.
So we have maybe two different types of listeners based on geography. We have expats. I work with a lot and support Black Sit Radio. I'm on Sundays, everybody, a las 6 Eastern Standard Time, but you know, daylight savings is about to flip the script.
Right.
It's going to change. 5 p.m., always Costa Rican time. That makes it easier. But so we have this growing Black American expat community, not just in Costa Rica. They're moving to America del Sur, America Central, Caribbean, Africa. It's like growing.
Yeah.
So I want to know, should people come here and click contact us? Because I know there's parents that still want their children. Some parents are homeschooling. Some parents have their students enrolled in una escuela privada or pública. So should they click on the contact us in order? What should they do? Because some people still need assistance virtually, I would imagine, if they are fuera de los Estados Unidos. Yeah. So what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Best way would be to click on the tab you have, contact us, click right on that. And we have some forms that are available to be completed. One form is for folks who want to explore tutoring for themselves or their students. Another form is for entities such as school systems or nonprofits who may want to have some professional development to talk further about partnering in education. And I can be booked for events that way. And then we also have, if you're interested in becoming a mastermind, where it says, I think under contact us, it says join our team or become a mastermind. Yes.
Okay.
So the website is the best place. Also, we're on Facebook. Mosaic Masterminds is a page on Facebook. So if anyone wants to send a direct message, I can reply that way too. But this is really good for intake so that by the time we connect over the phone, I have a lot of the information that you would need to provide anyway. So the website is great.
Awesome. And I see you have a very diverse team as well.
Yes.
That is
dynamic
so
team, dynamic group of educators. I've been so fortunate to be able to work with them. I'm fortunate that they share in the mission and the vision of Mosaic Masterminds. And most of us are active teachers. We do have a couple who are retired from teaching. We also have some folks from industry. We have some engineers on the team. And, you know, by nature of their work and experience, they're able to tutor things like math and science. So tons of experiences. We have a couple of veterans with us. Just a lot of awesome contributions, and I'm just very proud that they are willing to do this work with me.
This is so amazing. Y yo estoy bien contenta por aprender más de ti. I know we had connected briefly last year over the phone or Facebook, one of the two, or both.
I think both, yeah.
After Tiffany's book.
Yes, I can remember. Yeah.
I was so happy. I was like, okay, yeah, that's how we met. I'm just always so excited to learn about more people who are just doing amazing work in la comunidad. You know, we say it takes a village, and it really does. Whether tú eres docente o padre, madre, abuelito, if you are that's right. If you are in the care of children, young people, whether you teach them directly as a teacher or real talk, the first level of instruction comes from home. So if you somebody's mammy and pappy, you somebody's teacher. That was before the pandemic. Let me just let you know that, because some folks felt like, oh, I gotta be a learning coach. You should have been teaching your child at home. Let me just put that out there. Side note. That don't mean it's easy, because Lord knows I've been like, what in the world? But if you are in the position, and again, April and her team work with individuals that are non-traditional students too. But if you see something, there was a concept, see something, say something. But for real, if you see that there is an academic need, do not wait. Let me say that again let me turn my microphone. Do not wait. I see so many beautiful children, sadly, because of parenting and sadly because of the school systems. It's both. Because one, we should be balancing the scales. It should not be all on the padre. It should not be all on the schools. It has to be a community effort. But there are some gaps. There's not a lot of even scales going on, and people are being pushed to the next grade. And I have people, even in mi propia familia, that are advancing in grades and cannot read and write and do basic math operations. Parents, you have to make the effort. You have to actively parent tus hijos. Teachers, if you know there's a student, in love, everything should be done in love. Reach out to the parents, and you can reach out to April and her team through mosaicmasterminds.com. Reach out and make that connection. At least offer the opportunity. Teachers, we cannot do this all on ourselves. It is a village. If you know someone struggling en tu clase de español or de inglés, ciencia, make recommendations. We have the beautiful internet. Everyone says it's so negative. Well, let's capitalize on the cosas que son buenas. We can still reach and teach and work together and collaborate and learn and grow through the interwebs. Now, I'm really dating myself there. That's the interwebs. So I absolutely love it. April, do you have any final closing words que tú quieres compartir con nosotros about being bilingual or just academic excellence, about su negocio, cualquier cosa? Go ahead and feel free to share with us, chica.
Academic excellence is my thing. I know that's not eloquently stated, but I try to, it's kind of my mantra, I guess you could say. And so I'm always trying to operate out of a lens that reflects academic excellence, whether it's Mosaic Masterminds, whether it's my direct instruction, whether it's my learning experiences. So I'm going to, and I appreciate you asking me if I had any final thoughts, I'm going to be more vocal and taking advantage of my platform more to say the following. Education is already what gets put on the back burner when it comes to priorities, in my opinion. And I'm looking at our country, I'm looking at when budget cuts happen, a lot of the funding leaves, we're getting science and art out of the schools. We're getting, less after school programming, unless we can get some good grants coming, So when it comes to the family, when it comes to our community, and like you said, this village support, which I totally endorse, I think we do need to take collective ownership of educating. It doesn't fall on one person. Yes, it starts at home, hands down, but we should be in community and desiring to help one another, help everyone grow, help everyone develop. So that being said, I want badly to shift the mindset and attitudes around academic support. A lot of times we have a negative connotation with tutoring. Tutoring, it feels deficit-based, and somewhere along the culture of just even being with family, students perceive it that way sometimes. And I've heard parents threaten their kids, if you don't get it together, I'm gonna call Miss April, and it's like, why is that the go-to for correction, as opposed to embracing tutoring as a partnership in excellence, not a Band-Aid when things are going wrong.
Hold on. Stop. Rewind. Say that part right, Mogan. That needs to be your trademark, mommy. You need to copyright. Say that again so people can hear that. That was extremely powerful. Please, about the Band-Aid. Do that, por favor.
I just feel like tutoring and academic support should be treated just like we value things like athletics or any type of other after-school curriculum activity. We need to have it be an ongoing maintenance as opposed to an intervention when things are going wrong and then we have to put a Band-Aid over the problem. It should be something ongoing. It should be something, because I don't hear that. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not hijacking your show.
No. That's all a part of this package. You can only develop the concept of being swagalicious in your linguistic studies if you recognize, hey, there has to be room for growth. Hey, I can't do this all by myself. I love that you said we need to all be in community. Absolutely. When it comes to the education of our children, of our people, of ourselves, that's very powerful. We come together
and celebrate so many things, as we should. We will pack out gymnasiums and arenas for games. We will come together and pack out a building for a wedding or a baby shower. We should celebrate these things. We should also celebrate learning.
Yes.
We should make it a normalized cultural practice to celebrate excellence in how we learn and how we grow and how we develop. And so in my experience, a lot of times people will treat tutoring like a last resort, Hail Mary pass. Kids have been failing since October and it's March, and we want to finish strong for final exams. Well, the way you finish has to be the way you start. There are definitely moments where we can intervene, and my team is phenomenal. I can't say that enough. We are good at what we do. We're not miracle workers. So we have to be realistic with the time it takes to invest into a scholar and the learning process, and make it so it's a thing all the while, as opposed to, oh, let's get a tutor. And so I just, I could go on and I do this. I could go on and on all day about it.
I can tell that academic excellence, and not just the concept of it, but what is needed in order to achieve it is part of your purpose on this planet. Like, I can see that that is a passion of yours. And we all have this camino propio. Like we're all equally human, pero the camino que tenemos, cada uno tiene su propio camino. And you got to seek that purpose out, and your gift will make room for you. My girlfriend, Chrislyn, she's like such an amazing amiga. She said that to me, reminded me this morning, your gift will make room for you, right? You are passionate, and I love it. People, parents, teachers, grandmamas, Uncle Pookie, reach out to April and her amazing team at mosaicmasterminds.com, because she's here. Her team is here to help you or your scholar, your child, your grandbaby, whoever, your cousin, your niece, your nephew, to be successful, but also to change that mindset. And I love that. And I would really encourage you, Mamita, please start going live, making you some reels, because we need to celebrate academic achievement and excellence. And I'm not saying on the strength that it's all about getting this perfect score.
No.
It's about, measuring growth, being the best version of yourself, and being the best version, la mejor versión de ti, also includes, especially para los niños. We can focus on somebody doing the best twerk competition and doing this and the third, and those are fine. But what about once you learn to read? Frederick G said you will forever be free. And it is, and es una locura. I don't understand, especially para los afroamericanos, como nosotros can be satisfechos with the status quo of education for our people. We need to take back and work together como una comunidad, because this is a problem. Now, you talk about getting on a soapbox. That's going to be another topic for another day, because I'm so tired of these schools saying this and the third, and they're collecting that per pupil $9, $10, $11, $13,000 al año, and they're not educating our children. Teachers, mamas, daddies, you need to rise up to the occasion and not just allow this to happen. You have other community partners, such as Mosaic Masterminds, to help your people. Now, my new academic school year for Spanish language, you know how we do a Black and bilingual style? Starts fall. Do not come to me right now. You can give me your email address, but I'm not enrolling in new babies right now. I love y'all, but I got to keep working with the babies I already got. But you have people out here who are passionate about the holistic educational development of your child.
Holistic, absolutely.
And their education is part of the package. It is not enough. And you're absolutely right. We will turn up for prom, for 8th grade graduation, for the basketball game. And honestly, when you're speaking, it made me think of how exciting it is when it's like the NFL draft or the NBA draft, which are amazing things. We should be excited. It should be like a draft, an academic draft, and not saying who got the best GPA per se. You recognize those individuals too, but who made the most growth. Let's celebrate and turn up this person.
Every individual has a unique learning style and set of strengths. And set of opportunities for growth. And so that's what we do when we work with our students. We recognize those, we tap into those, and we cater to those. And we have the luxury of doing it because it's one-on-one, But for sure, I think all these things need to be celebrated. Unfortunately, to have a standard to follow, our nation has a practice of assigning letter grades and points for tests. that's the way that we measure performance. But we need to also celebrate learners for learning, because not everyone learns at the same pace. Not everyone learns the same quantity of content at the same time. And so it's just about learning. I don't feel like we celebrate learning to be learning. We have to learn to pass a test. We have to learn to go to college. We have to learn to matriculate. We have to learn to go out this weekend so we can get an A. You know, we just need to learn to be learning. It's just a beautiful thing to be able to grow and develop on an individual level.
You fed my soul. I feel so good whenever I'm able to connect with like-minded individuals, and you just exude your passion for this academic excellence on, I love that. You love the term holistic, like on a holistic level. The tangible external level is just for this grade, right? Because that's what we want to measure, but we want to really increase this intrinsic. I know that you
took the word out of my mouth, this intrinsic benefit.
Yes. And it's there. And the thing is, people always try to separate and make them polar opposites. But when you develop an intrinsic motivation to learn, and there are extrinsic like factors that you can be passionate about something and your gift will make room for you and still get paid or still get the reward. Yes. But the emphasis shouldn't be on the reward so much, but on like, I'm excited about learning. I'm excited about teaching. I'm excited about growing and having more understanding. There's a passion there, and that's a beautiful thing, So our time has come, mi amorcita. I am so thankful. Gracias por tomar ese tiempo de estar.
Gracias por la oportunidad y tu tiempo. Gracias por todo lo que hace. I love what you're doing out here. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things from people you've worked with. So you keep it going as well. Mucho éxito para ti.
Gracias, mi amor. Gracias, bendiciones a ti, a tu negocio, a sus compañeros de trabajo, de todo. And thank you for everything. Gracias a todos ustedes. Remember, check out April and her team. Visit su sitio web, mosaicmasterminds.com. I want to stress it, especially for people that are living outside of the country. You may not be knowing what you need to do. You may see some gaps with your child's education, whether you're homeschooling, like full homeschool organic, or you have an online program, and or your child is enrolled in una escuela pública o privada afuera del país. Please reach out to April and her team, mosaicmasterminds.com. I'm going to keep doing a promo. And be blessed, everyone. Thank you all. Que tengan un día maravilloso. And thank you so much. Gracias a ti, mi amor.
Gracias a ti. Bye.
Okay, chaito.
Hey, tengo un secreto. Escúchame bien por un rato.